Shalom, shalom. This video is about the book of Acts chapter 2 verse 25 to 36. How the whole house of Israel will eventually acknowledge that YESHUA is ADONAI and that YESHUA is the Messiah. I'll read the text for you and then I'll explain. So Kepha, Simon Peter continued speaking on the temple stairs, and this is on the day immediately after the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Remember Acts chapter 2. And what Kepha, Simon Peter said was, and I'm starting in the middle of his speech here, just for context. For David said about him, about YESHUA, I saw Adonai always before me, for he is at my right hand, so that I might not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad and my tongue rejoiced. Moreover, my body will live in hope, because you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, or let your Holy One see decay. You've made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence. Brothers, I can confidently tell you that the patriarch David died and was buried in his tomb with us to this day. So because he was a prophet and knew God had sworn with an oath to him to seat one of his descendants on the throne, David saw beforehand and spoke of Messiah's resurrection, so that he was not abandoned to Sheol and his body did not see decay, because he resurrected. This YESHUA God raised up, we are all witnesses. Therefore, being exalted to the right hand of God and receiving from the Father the promise of the Ruach HaKodesh, he poured out this, what you now see and hear. And that refers, now see and hear, refers to the recipients of the Holy Spirit who were filled with the Spirit, talking in the different earthly dialects and languages of all the Jews who made Aliyah as pilgrims for the festival, the Moed appointed time of Shavuot. And then the text continues. For David did not ascend into heavens, yet he himself said, Adonai said to my Lord, and it's interesting there, the text, original ground text says, Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, said to Adonai, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. And that is, Peter is quoting Psalm 110 verse 1 there. And therefore let the whole house of Israel know for certain that God, Elohim, has made him YESHUA, this YESHUA whom you have crucified, both Adonai, Lord, and Messiah. So every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that YESHUA is Adonai and that he is the Jewish Messiah. And Kepha, Simon Peter said it in these verses, quoting from Isaiah 45 verse 23. And after Peter said this, in the book of Revelation chapter 5 verse 13, we read the final fulfillment of this prophecy is foretold as well. Isaiah added in Isaiah 45 verse 24 to 25, and I recommend that you read those verses for yourself. How this confession would lead to all Israel's salvation. All Israel will be saved, in the words that the Apostle Paul made famous. He got that from Isaiah 45, verse 24 to 25, and from Kepha, Simon Peter's speech here on the temple stairs. So every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that YESHUA is Adonai, means that not only all people, but all creation will submit to YESHUA. And that cannot be different, because he created it all by speaking it into existence, by speaking the Hebrew letters. At the end of his millennial reign, at the end, therefore, of the seventh great day of 1,000 years, after the Sabbath covenant has been fulfilled, he will roll it all up. After it served its purpose, and he will then replace creation, all the temporal stuff, with the eternal. So every tongue means every ethnic group in the world, but it also means every individual person who has a tongue to speak with. And Kepha, Simon Peter's speech moments after the Jewish pilgrims heard the disciples, who now graduated as apostles, speak in their own resident country's language and dialect, the emphasis is more on linguistic groups or ethnic groups than individuals, but it most certainly applies to the individual as well in the Remesh application or Remesh exegesis. All the enemies of Israel shall confess on their knees that Yeshua is the anointed one of God, the Messiah and the Son of God. On the Yom Kippur, when they are in the sheep and goats judgment of Matthew 25 verse 31 to 46. And these enemies of Israel will do so trembling with fear, as he, Yeshua, will cast them into outer darkness. Ezekiel 7 verse 17 and Ezekiel 21 verse 7 writes how those enemies will lose control of their bladders in fear, and they will wet themselves with urine running down their knees when they face Yeshua in judgment. It's not going to be a pretty picture. Our opportunity is to acknowledge Yeshua on our knees in prayer and worship now, on this day. And this is a far better outcome for you and I. He loves you and will welcome your submission with open arms. And then He will raise you up to everlasting life in His kingdom. Please do not leave bowing your knees and confessing with your own tongue that Yeshua is Adonai until it is too late. Please do it now. And He will give you shalom, shalom.